Doctor, I would like to confirm whether you can hear me.
I've said you start, please. I do hear you properly.
And also,
And
I
the
would like to
students are
confirm.
also accepting.
Oh, I would also like to
They are
confirm whether
saying it's okay.
the slides are changing. I'm on the
Changing,
slide for
you are on
introduction.
the first, you are on introductory page.
Okay.
The first slide. Click the second or third.
The second has introduction.
It's, now open your document, your PPT document, and then present from the original. It has now changed.
Oh,
So you scroll using the original document, which is not yet shared. It will do show the changes on the screen.
even there it is changing, right? There's
Yes,
introduction.
please.
Okay. Okay, members, thank you for entrusting me. Doctor, thank you for entrusting me to go and search about the evolution of management thoughts or approaches to management. So in this research, I looked at how management thoughts have evolved through times, and the evolution has been classified under the pre-science management era, that is before the 1880s, and then the classical management era that ran from 1880s up to 1930s. And then we also see thoughts coming in which are classified under the neo-classical management era of the 1930s to the 1950s. And then we also see thoughts coming in to improve on management, which were classified under the modern management era of 1950s onwards, and that is up to current. However, to complement the modern management era, there are contemporary emerging thoughts, which we are also classifying here as contemporary and emerging thoughts or approaches, which are rising 2000 up to date. So we can also have that classified as the postmodern management era. However, management is keeping on improving day by day. Let us start from the earlier thoughts, which other people can call the traditional thoughts. Here, classified under the pre-scientific era or the traditional era that took place before the 1880s. Now, we look at the characteristics of these thoughts that the managers had in those years. The management, this management in this era was informal, and therefore the managers in this time before the 1880s took management decisions without necessarily referring to any principles generated by anybody in the society. They only are based on personal experiences, like somebody did something and did not work out, so he avoids doing it again that way. By experience, the managers tended to approach issues of community and issues of work using their background information and what they had seen other people doing. So they also based on customs and by intrusion, how somebody perceives something. That's how they were doing and handling community affairs and the organizational affairs. So in these informal settings, Decisions were made by leaders without formal methods. Like today, we can refer to the bureaucratic system, and so we have hierarchies from top, middle, and bottom. These times, those hierarchies had not yet been developed, but traditionally, communities had leadership groups where the elders were believed to have more exposures and experiences, and therefore were were more fundamental in management, and those younger stars joining were thought not to be experienced, and therefore would only be allowed to perform basic tasks, but expertise tasks were left for those who were believed in the communities to have had some good exposures and and experiences. So in this era, or the managers focused on authority, personal relations, and the trial and error, where issues pertaining to management were not coming up very well. The managers would center on, let us try this way and see whether it works out. And if it does not work out, they also seek for another way. And by these trials and errors, what other scholars such as Robert Thompson, I read the book of Evolution of Management, who classified this era as experimental management era, where the managers were managing by experiment, trying out to see which approach works better and which one does not work out. It was more of try out, and then after trying out, you see the results, and then make a decision on which approach you can continue with. So when I looked at the other side of approaches, those were characteristics. We see that these approaches, because this is a traditional era or pre-scientific era, the approaches could not be easily classifiable or, or, or structured. However, uh, some books which talk about Frederick Winslow Taylor as a father of the scientific management approach, which we shall see later. We are also speaking about how the pre-scientific uh, management era actually was being conducted before the scientific coming in. And they are saying that the approach of the pre-scientific era was more on the emphasis of authority, personal judgment, and informal supervision. So in this era, the approaches were more experimental, and therefore did not have any did not rely so much on references, which are documented references, but relied so much on personality and authority vested to people. But again, this authority that was vested onto people was more based on their experiences, and those who exhibited more experience were also considered to have expertise to guide to guide the management, and therefore we are given higher authorities to manage. So when we see that there was the informal supervision, we see that supervision was not guided by specific rules, but the rules were there, but they were not very specific in writing. They remained in the hearts of the people and their minds. So those who were behind this, who were in leadership, whoever new lead manager who would come on would just see how the other is handling matters through mentorship, and therefore would also gain uh, the management skill to do like those the predecessors he or she has found in place. Then there were no scientific or systematic analysis, and mostly the approaches we are relying on traditional and personal traits of leadership of the leaders in place. So this was pre-scientific, and so what we note here is that the approaches did not have a specific form, a documented form, and therefore we are guided by experiences and the customs of the community that these managers had. However, later on, we see that as Taylor, Frederick Winslow Taylor lived in the pre-scientific era, said there must be something to change. We cannot just be managing institutions from just within ourselves, and the new people who are coming on board cannot uh, uh, cannot have anything to refer to, and there are no specific principles to follow. That instead of being personal, let management be impersonal, so that whoever comes on board can follow what is already set up beyond personal personality. Let us have a system already established. So this gave birth to the introduction of the formal management theory. In this formal management theories, which are classified under the classical management era of 1880s to 1930s. So when I read a book called The Journal and Industrial Management, which was translated by R. H. Pinky, but this book had been written by Henry Fayol of the 1916. This book narrates how the classical management era arose. And therefore, in its presentation, it shows that the classical management era initiated the formal management systems, which were aimed at improving efficiency and productivity through scientific approaches. And that in this era, we see that um, management now concentrated on making sure that when workers are entrusted with what to do, they should be efficient, and therefore productivity must be high. When we read about the scientific management approach, which is part of the classical management era, we see that this scientific management approach, originally proposed by Frederick Winslow Taylor, specifies that management at least must take a structure, that there must be a structure to follow where uh, 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 where the manager can be able to guide the population very well. That there are people who are who have skills, and those people who have skills are under a manager who knows their skills, and therefore can guide them to be very efficient and productive. So in the scientific management era, it shows that when I read the book by Frederick Winslow Taylor, it shows that Winslow Taylor himself was a was Winslow Taylor himself was an engineer, and being an engineer, he thought that let people be managed by as though they are machines. They should receive instructions from a specific person and act accordingly without too much or without questioning, so that workers don't decide on them so by themselves what to do, but there must be a person who should command what they should do, how they should do it, how much they should produce, and when they should have completed those production volumes. Because his proposal was in the time of the industrial era, where more of the slaves were taken into uh, in industries to make sure that production runs very fast. And there, during the scientific uh, era, which had scientific thoughts, and managers there were approaching management with scientific ideas, were imposing so much rules, specific rules on workers, making sure that workers are very effective and efficient. Members, just 30 minutes to close the door because there is a machine here. Okay, thank you. So the emphasis was rule and making sure that work is more efficient and effective. So they had to standardize workflow and standardize expectations, which were documented. Remember that this was the start of the formalized management, to make sure that management is quite detached from personality. You don't do as you wish, but you do as the organization wishes. So later on, we see that administration also took over, which administration was proposed, most of it when I wrote the book of General and Industrial Management, translated by R. H. Pinky, that was written by Henry Fayot in the 1916. It was saying that management was being complemented by the under operational management, which also was said to be administrative management, where if there is a manager, there are administrators to support management, so that the efficiency and productivity proposed by the scientific managers is spread up to the operational level. And to have it spread up to the operational level, there must be administrators to watch over and make it effective. So Henry Fayot came up with principles of, of management, which later on were also complemented by Golich. And these principles were summarized as the POSDCORB. POSDCORB. POSDCORB stands for planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, others add controlling, and other books I've seen are adding communication. Then also reporting. That for management to be effective, then management has got to have to take a direction which has planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, controlling, and reporting. And therefore, these up to date have been labeled to be the management functions. So if we are to manage, then management must have these principles exercised at the workplace, whether people want or they don't want. Remember that in the formal setting, they are proposing here that management has got to be detached from personality. Let your personality be following principles. And actually, uh, uh, if we are to go further, you will see that this is in personality. You follow things not as you wish, but as the organization wishes. So later on in the classical management era, we see one of the friends and was also a student of Frederick Winslow Taylor, called Weber. Others in German, they call it Weber. I've heard it in the presentations here. That in the 1947 says, yes, though it is good to have efficiency and productivity in workers, it is hard to achieve it if management does not take focused or does not get focused on a specific structure and standardization. And thus, he proposes that let organizations have an organizational structure which shows who is in which position from top, middle, and bottom, and specifically also let everybody who is in his position have authority in that position. So, Weber's contribution to management uh, brought in uh, uh, brought in the concept of the bureaucracy, that everybody in the organization has got to have a position in the organizational hierarchy, which in our organization presently we say we have an organizational chart, which shows that maybe in some organizations the board of directors are at the very top, then followed by managers at after the board of directors, then followed by supervisors and later on the operators. This was brought in to make sure that the efficiency that had been proposed by Frederick Winslow Taylor and the productivity is actually achievable. Because according to Weber, we cannot achieve organizational efficiency and productivity of workers where we do not have uh, uh, the organization arranged with a hierarchy and also having rules and impersonal and impersonality. So, I later on studied some of the principles that govern the organizational structure, but have not included them here. However, they are principles that organizations are following in the organizational structure, that are following organizational structure. So, later on, after the classical management era, here we come to see the neoclassical management, which spanned from the 1930s to the 1950s. During this period, it is seen that the characteristics of this period are viewed that there is a shift towards human factors. Remember that the scientific management approach under the classical management approach, sorry, the classical management era, we are focused on productivity of workers, their efficiency, and profitability of the organization, but did not put focus on the welfare of the people who are working in those organizations. So regardless of how you are, how you're thinking, whether you're motivated or not, those managers were just about what are you outputting, other than how is your life, the person who is outputting. In this neoclassical management era, they looked at the weaknesses of the classical management era and said, no, let us have some idea, and thought about how well are our workers. Are they motivated? Or can they really have social groups among themselves as they are working in the organization, other than simply looking at what they can do, but how is their life? So during this time, management was characterized by recognition of employee welfare and also the group dynamics, where you see that in some workplaces, workers of the same tribe can have an association, or workers can have a club, which were not a central focus during the management era, which we call the classical management era. So in this era, now workers started to look at welfare of workers and beyond just looking at their output. They say that where workers are not motivated and their welfare is not taken care of, how can they produce results that are expected of them? So they approach management using an approach called humanistic approach, which emphasizes human relations. Even top managers can come to operators, associate with them, ask them what they need, and then can have a party together and enjoy together. And they can even, those at lower levels, can even participate in management decision making, which the scientific management approaches did not accept. That for them, they were saying, if you are at a lower level, you should remain at low level, only receiving instructions and directions from the top. Yet in the humanistic approach, these ones were like, even everybody has ideas, has suggestions and opinions which are central to the organization and therefore can also contribute to decision making. And thus, this unified uh, 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 top management and middle and bottom to be central in making decisions. So they also focus on social needs. That is, Elton Mayo emphasized that. We could look at some of the proposals by Elton Mayo, but you also look at some of the needs of workers that motivate them according to Abraham Maslow. Abraham Maslow came up with the hierarchy of needs to make sure that workers can be motivated from from the basic needs or physiological needs uh, to, to the top needs. You look at these ones when you go to the details of humanistic approach, so that workers can be motivated according to the seven levels that were proposed by Abraham Maslow. So later on, we see that management takes behavioral management approaches, which recognizes individual needs, and then they show that even those workers participate in management. I looked at to complement this idea of participatory involvement of workers in organizational decision making. I saw I read about the theory Z by William Ouchi, which proposes that let management have a round table, which for him William Ouchi calls the Japanese ring, a ring. Let us sit on a round table with members. If it is a school, the cook comes and sits there, and then the director of studies, the cleaner, the head of cleaners, and then the head of whoever in each department. Let them come together and we place an issue. If we placed an issue such as uh, uh, students are not passing adequately, what could be the issue? Maybe an askari can say they are escaping because we don't have a perimeter wall, which the managers at the top may have overlooked or may not have thought of. So in the neoclassical management era, they are looking at how do we make sure workers are involved, they are motivated and inspired to do better. Then later on, we see they are also the modern management era. There is the modern management era of the 1950s up to the present time. This era is characterized by emphasis on system thinking, contingence, and integration of various approaches. So during this era, managers started thinking that can we really have one way of managing institutions and have them effective? Or we need to blend several management approaches to come out with the desired results? In this era, managers started realizing that there is no one approach or theory that suits all situations. And therefore, they had to focus on organizational environments so that the change in environment may also call for a change in approach. That how we approached matters yesterday may not be the same way we approach them today, even though the institution is the same. That the world is so dynamic, and therefore management has also got to be dynamic by changing with the changing environment, which they called here adaptability. So that gave birth to the what we call the contingent theory or contingence approach, which states that management practices depend on situational variables. So as the situation changes, then the management practice has also got to change to match with the prevailing changes in the environment, but still emphasizing productivity and efficiency. Then management in this modern management era also took a direction which we can say the open systems approach, where in the earlier years, uh, in the classical management era and the neo-classical management eras, most of the organizations centered on the internal environment and could only decide basing on what is inside the organization and planned for people who are within the organization and did not plan for the community. In this open systems approach, management looks at the community as an input to the organization. Because the community brings in resources into the organization, and therefore if there is a problem or any challenge within the community, the organization suffers along. And therefore it focused on how do we integrate community needs within the organizational setting, and that gave birth to approaches where organizations can open their doors for communities. You find if it is a university and there is a wedding of the community, the people from the community can host their wedding within the university premises, a polling station within the university premises or the organizational grounds. They can also host immunizational centers, and so that the community is included in the organizational undertaking. We also see during this time that the organizations spread their reach to communities, participating in community health. For example, MTN here in Uganda, they can have a marathon to support cancer or any ailment that has emerged into the community. Beyond the sale of airtime, data, and making sure that masks are standing and operating, they are reaching out to communities through what they are calling the corporate social responsibility, which was not a center in the earlier management era, and thus using the open systems approach, organizations are planning for the community beyond planning for themselves, because the welfare of the community also contributes to the welfare of the organization. We also see the systems approach, which is guided by the theory or the systems theory, which shows that organizations are so vast and have interconnected aspects, where one department is connected to another. So there is an interconnection within these organizations. that running one department well may also contribute positively to another. But a small mismanagement in one of the departments can also create a mismanagement in another or a dysfunction in another department. So for that case, uh, the approach as here,
Excuse me, Wilbur.
yes, please,
Excuse me, Wilbur.
yes, please.
Sorry for. I believe that you're mindful of time.
Okay, let
It's
me conclude.
already 5 minutes past 3.
Oh, let me conclude.
Beatrice. Hello, Beatrice. Wilbur
Yes,
is alone.
doctor.
He can continue. Don't limit him.
Okay, then.
Because I don't see this Daniel joining us.
Actually, I've sent him a message. He's not even replying. I don't know whether Daniel is online. He's not replying.
Okay. So because in the systems theory, we see the organization being interconnected. They compare the organization to a body of the person. That if the heart is not functioning, the brain can stop functioning and the whole body actually fails because each system feeds the other. That similarly, even in organizations, managers here have got to be sensitive with every operational department and make sure that each of them is functioning very well. That a dysfunction in one can lead to a dysfunction in the other and even a dysfunction in the whole organization. So in this era, we can say the managers are thinking within the organization, internal environment, but are also thinking outside the organization, the external environment, and seeing that the two are complementing each other. Then the other emphasis during this era is the idea of total quality management, which emphasizes continuous improvement and customer-centric approaches. That organizations are looking at making sure that each day the quality of their products is improved and that what the customer is experiencing is better each day, and therefore are studying better approaches on how to improve products, how to improve services, and how to improve management itself and their outreach through distribution. Even improving methods of production is also emphasized so that the organization is able to stand out in against any form of competition and also is able to stand out against any change in customer needs that may arise in the communities. In the fifth stage, we see the contemporary and emerging approaches. So members here, when I read about the contemporary and emerging management approaches, they are emphasizing that approaches and thoughts to improve management and make it more effective have not been exhausted. From year to year, management will keep on evolving and improving. So, the characteristics of this period, which range from 2000s to present, is they put more focus on technological integration, where earlier on the machines were being the machines were being controlled by people. They are seeing that a machine can control itself, instruct itself to start and even to stop if well programmed, and also can even be managed when the worker is not on site. So they are integrating technology in manufacturing, in trade, and also making sure marketing uh, 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 is also technological driven. Even management itself. So the emphasis ran into agility and innovations, and even intensifying stakeholder involvement. So in this era, we also see the emphasis on flexibility of structures, where if the situations change, the structures should not over remain fixed. They should also be modified to suit with the emerging changes. There are also what we call sustainability, where we see that management is also focused on environmental sustainability. What is the effect of our organization on the entire environment and the ecosystem? So that management focuses on how sustainable resources can be, and also makes sure that the environment, uh, general physical environment, is 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 healthy, or what they call green economy. Sorry, the green ecosystem, where machines that were producing lots of smoke and could smell the smoke, could smell the whole village, they are actually replacing them by electronic machines, and ensuring that even generators are replaced by electronic electronic electricity generating sources, solar and all other sources which they are calling green sources. In this era, we are also seeing the emergence of what we call inclusion, inclusivity, where in the earlier eras, people with disability were excluded from work. In this era, we see that managers are focusing on inclusion, including people with disability, the females, the gender sensitivity, where even the directors and general managers or departmental heads can be ladies, which in the classical times were mostly men. So this gave birth to what we call the approaches, which we are classifying here as the agile management approach. And later on, the data-driven management approach and the inclusivity uh, management approaches. So members, here I would like to conclude, but during the contemporary and emerging approaches, we are saying that approaches are still coming on board, and among us we can also create some of the what of the approaches to management after looking at the gaps that are existing in the prevailing management approaches, so we can come up with our own and develop our own approaches. I have put the references as in the sides corresponding to each of the of the management thoughts, which I put under each of the stages, where in this conclusion I've shared with you that management has evolved from the pre-scientific, which we call the traditional approach, where management was informal, and therefore management took the directions based on experiences of those in the community. Everyone that exhibited the higher experiences would be given a higher position, and to be also able to manage more people. And thus, during that era, decisions of management were purely informal and had no references. Then we also looked at the classical management era, where we saw that management started taking shape and adopting the formal setting, where most of how management was being driven was guided by a form which was documented and was documented and written down so that efficiency and productivity of workers is achieved beyond personal, beyond personality. So in this era, we've seen that management took a direction where people don't do as they wish, but they started doing as the organization wishes, which we later on said that is impersonality. We also saw the neoclassical management, which brought into play the contribution of workers and putting workers as a center in the management and achievement of organizational goals, which focused on welfare of workers, their motivation, and that it is from their welfare and their motivation and social interaction that organizations can achieve their goals. So the concentration here shifted from simply looking at what the workers can do to how workers can live well, their welfare. Then later on, we also saw the modern management era, which emphasized on how management should integrate the external and the internal environment, so that management does not only concentrate on the internal environment and neglect the external environment. And thus, was very important during this era that we not approach management the static way. Management is dynamic and therefore should change. Management approaches have got to change based on situations. When situations change, even the approach has got to change. Then later on, we also saw in the contemporary times where we had concluded, where we saw that management is looking at technology integration and is also looking at the aspects of sustainability and also inclusivity. And continuously, management is maybe something that left aside is the attribute called internationalization and globalization, which are very key, where managers are focusing on what are the generally accepted principles beyond national principles or national laws, the international principles, international standards, and also meeting internationally international requirements in the environment of globalization. Members, thank you. I am Sepuyungo Wilbur Chiveka Yunga, and thank you, Doctor, for hosting me.
Over to you, the moderator.
Thank you so much, Wilbur. Thank you so much for the elaborate presentation. You've really taken us through the evolution of management thought, or the approaches to management.